Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Every day we break down breaking AI news stories and explain their implications in your life and in business. If you are interested in seeing really interesting AI use cases, make sure to follow me over on x.com, formerly Twitter, as I will be sharing some really cool use cases of AI, and I kind of, retweet some of the greatest things I'm seeing in the space every day. So make sure to follow me at Jaden_AI. I'll drop a link to that, but also my handle is in the podcast cover. I would love to have you in the community. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. Meta has announced that they are open sourcing and launching 3 new AI audio plays, and those are called MusicGen, AudioGen, and of course they're updating their EnCodec. So on the podcast today, we're going to be diving into what these 3 new AI models do and why it's so important that these are open source. So let's jump into it. The first one that they unveiled is called AudioCraft, which essentially is a framework designed to produce high quality, realistic audio and music. And they do this, of course, just with short text prompts. We've seen similar tools out of Google, but what I love that Meta is doing here, that I always give them credit for, is the fact that they're open sourcing this project. Anyone can use it. And of course, we'll see a cool tool like this out of Google. And the assumption is, you can get it if you have some sort of subscription to Google in the future. That's kind of where Google goes with these tools. And so this is really cool seeing this out of Meta, where this is open source and they're allowing people to take it and they're kind of releasing the model weights and everything that goes around. So this isn't Meta's first step into the whole sound generation. The company actually had previously made a couple steps in this field by open sourcing an AI music creator, MusicGen, back in June. But this time, Meta, says that its newest progress significantly enhances the quality of AI-created sounds. So whether that's a dog bark, the blaring of a car horn, or the sound of footsteps echoing on wooden floor. So in a detailed blog post, Meta kind of outlined how AudioCraft's frameworks has, conceptualized and how it was created to really streamline the application of generative models for audio. And they talked about, the comparison between this and their earlier efforts in the field. There was Refusion, Dance Fusion, and then OpenAI obviously had Jukebox. So now this open source AudioCraft is a really comprehensive package, which I believe offers a different kind of suite of sounds and music generators along with a compression algorithm. And, which really helps to simplify the creation and the whole encoding process without you needing to hop between different code bases, which is a really big lifesaver. So these 3 models, which are AudioCraft, or I guess AudioCraft is kind of the platform. So the 3 models on the platform are MusicGen, AudioGen, and EnCodec. And we've seen MusicGen before. So this time Meta has announced, or I guess it's kind of launched its training code, which is allowing users to actually train models with their own music data sets. So this is kind of big, right? Before they just said, hey, here's this tool, you can use it, we've trained it. But now we actually get the model, which is amazing, right? If someone has a big data set of maybe their own music or other music that they have rights to, they can use that to train, which is really, really cool. Also, inevitably, you can assume that someone's going to go and take the entire library of Johnny Cash and throw it in there and train it to be a really good Johnny Cash music creator. But that's already something that's on the internet. There's all the bootleg AI generated music, which, to be honest, I've listened to and thought was pretty good. So, take that with a grain of salt. But it's going to be interesting. This is open source. It's open on the internet. Anyone can use it now. And, some people will complain that, it's getting used on copyrighted music. But I think at the end of the day, this is a really great tool. I think copyright's obviously going to apply if you're, putting this thing on YouTube. I wonder if YouTube's going to put a content strike against you for AI generated music in the style of an artist. I mean, I think that's fair if they do. But at the end of the day, I think this is a really big win for developers and for any kind of music enthusiasts. There's so many different use cases for this. So I think this is something great to have open source and in the public. Something really interesting that Meta said this time around is that they've actually specifically clarified that the pre-trained version of MusicGen was trained using, quote, Meta-owned and specifically licensed music. So they said that there is over 20,000 hours of audio, which is amounting to around 400,000 recordings. And they were, they also had text descriptions and metadata in there, right? That's kind of the genius of this, is that you upload the recordings, and then you have, of course, if it's a song, you have the lyrics to the song, and that's how and also metadata on the style of the song and a bunch of data about it. And so that's how this thing is able to, be trained to replicate stuff. But I think it's really important, right? They had the licenses to this music. No one can complain that, they scraped the internet and grabbed, Johnny Cash and every other. It's kind of different here too, because when you see someone like OpenAI, not saying that this is right or wrong either, but when they scrape the entire internet, they're grabbing the responses and text of broad users that a lot of them weren't professionals. Maybe they just had hobby blogs, or they're just talking about, X, Y, and Z, or comments on Reddit and stuff. And I think it's a little bit better, an easier argument for them to make that, no, this isn't like copyrighted material. We're just grabbing what some people have said and training our data off of this. For Meta, if they were going to try to like train an AI model off of music, every single song is obviously copyrighted. And so it's kind of just like a whole new ballpark that I think is a lot trickier. So they definitely need to make sure that they're using, something that they have licenses to. So the data was sourced from Meta's own Meta Music Initiative sound collection. So Shutterstock's music library and Pond 5 were also included in that. But, a really prominent stock media library and a collection that they have there. So I think that, it's obviously giving them a ton of data. Meta also took steps to remove vocals from the training data in order to prevent the model from reproducing artists' voices, right? So that's, again, something I think people will appreciate. However, the terms of use of MusicGen really discourage out of the scope usage beyond research. So Meta stops short of outright prohibiting any commercial applications, but that's really not something that they're encouraging at this time. Maybe that will change in the future, but at the moment they're really, saying they just want researchers to use this. And maybe that's just for liability reasons. The second model, which is in the AudioCraft platform, is AudioGen. So this kind of focuses on the generation of environmental sounds and sound effects rather than music and, melodies. So this kind of shares traits with modern image generators like AI's DALL-E 2, or Google's Imagine and Stable Diffusion. So really, AudioGen operates on a diffusion-based model. So it's designed to learn how to kind of progressively erase noise from starting data, which could also be audio or images, and get it kind of close to the target prompt. And it does this step by step. So kind of set up with a text description of an acoustic scene. If you gave it that, AudioGen has a capability to generate environmental sounds with realistic recording conditions and also complex scene content. So that's what Meta has said. And as yet, there hasn't been an opportunity to put AudioGen through its paces. I haven't been able to try this out yet ahead of its release. But a white paper published alongside AudioGen reveals that it can also generate speech from prompts in addition to music, which is really interesting, which is kind of, it can do this mirroring the diversity of its training data, essentially. So the white paper for this also says that AudioCraft could potentially be misused to deepfake a person's voice. So that also gives us some hints about its capabilities. But you can kind of add to this AudioCraft's music generation capabilities, and if you put the two together, right, AudioCraft and the ability, essentially on the platform with MusicGen and AudioCraft, you could really create full-on songs, I'm assuming. So just like MusicGen, metadata also doesn't really impose stringent restrictions on how AudioCraft and its trading code can be used. So, whether that's for the better or worse. The final model of the AudioCraft platform is going to be EnCodec, which represents an upgrade over a predecessing Meta model. So this is designed to generate music with fewer artifacts. And Meta's assertion that EnCodec is essentially more efficiently models audio sequences, and that it's good at capturing different layers of information in the training data's audio waveforms to essentially assist in crafting unique audio. So EnCodec is described as sort of a lossy neural codec trained to compress any form of audio and reproduce the original signal with high fidelity. And the different streams capture varying levels of information from the audio waveform. So this kind of enables the audio to be reconstructed with high fidelity from all streams. Really, really interesting what they have going on. So I think whether it comes to gauging the potential impact of audiocraft, Meta naturally chooses, the high to essentially just highlight the positive possibilities. They envision a tool that can inspire musicians and assist individuals in iterating their compositions in new and exciting ways. But we've also seen, with image and text generators, every new kind of technology brings with it its own kind of share of pitfalls, legal complexities, and all of the controversies. So it'll be very interesting as tools like this get bigger and bigger and are bigger in the industry. It'll be really interesting to see how that brings those controversies into the light with audio specifically. So undeterred by those challenges that I think we may see in the future, Meta plans to essentially continue probing in ways to enhance the controllability and performance of generative audio models, while also working to kind of cut back on the limitations and that we're seeing from them. So on the topic of biases, I think it's worth noting that MusicGen currently, when dealing with descriptions in language other than English, it does not have a lot. And, music styles and cultures outside of kind of the Western sphere, I don't think it supports them at the time. So it'll be interesting to see if they bring those in. But Meta in their blog post also noted, quote, through the development of more advanced controls, we hope that such models can become useful to both music amateurs and professionals. So I think this is going to be a really interesting area to follow in the future. Obviously, this is a really powerful tool, and I think we're going to see some pretty solid adoption of this in the future. First off, probably from companies implementing this into platforms, and then from users that will be creating all sorts of music and interesting audio effects based off of these new AI tools.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure to check out our Discord channel and Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can share software, tools, and prompts we're using in AI every day. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.